Hello everyone, Charles Watts here, the Arsenal correspondent at Goal, joining you for part 2 of this week's Q&A. Obviously uploaded part 1 on Thursday morning, and there was so many, as I said in that video, there were so many replies to the tweet that I put out earlier in the week, asking for your questions, asking for your comments, your opinions, that it was impossible for me to just whack it into one video. It had gone on for ages, it would have been really, really boring, and I'm sure I'd lost all your attention. So I thought I'd package it up into a couple, maybe even 3, just to keep them a lot shorter and more interesting. Hopefully, you don't all switch off. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to crack straight into it because we've got lots to go through, as I said. And so here we go. I'll just continue on from where we left off yesterday. First question is about Florin Balogun, obviously the excellent young Arsenal striker in the under-23s, set up under-18s as well. And I got a question from Asif. Says, do you have any idea what the deal is with Balogun? Any chance he might sign a new deal? Seems a massive prospect. Shame to lose him. Now, my understanding, I read a story about this on Goal a while back on Balogun, is that Arsenal have been unable to agree a new contract with him. He's got a year left on his deal, so he is still at Arsenal. He's training at the moment with the 23s. He's been back for a while now with the academy. So there is still a chance he could sign because he's there. He hasn't left yet. But as far as I'm aware, nothing has changed, and Arsenal is still open to offers for Balogun this summer. Brentford have been keen. They were keen on him in January. Didn't get a deal done for him then. Were keen on him again this summer, but it looks like they've not been able to agree with Arsenal. They've actually moved on and looking at even Tony at Peterborough for about £10 million, I think. And so Arsenal are holding out for a decent fee for Balogun. They know his quality. They wanted him to sign. They couldn't agree a deal with him. They offered him a contract that was fairly based on weighted on achievements, which they felt could have gone up to earn him an awful lot of money over the next couple of years should he go on and hit the sort of targets that they're setting for him. Him and his people weren't too keen on that, so they couldn't agree the contract, and Arsenal felt that they couldn't just keep going over and over the same thing again and said, okay, fine, you can leave this summer if we get a decent deal for you. So that's where we are with Balogun right now. He's obviously still at the club, so you never know, things could change, but as far as I'm aware, Arsenal are still at the mindset that if they can get a decent fee for him, a decent deal for him, involving a transfer fee and a good sell-on clause later on, then they will take that and Balogun will leave the club. So we'll have to wait and see on that. So I hope that answers your question, Asif. Barjar says, what's it like working with Arteta? His age, with the experience he possesses, watching from TV, I see how passionate he expresses himself. Has he learned from the best ever? Well, he has learned from one of the best ever, or two of the best ever in Arsene Wenger and Guardiola. If you're asking me what it's like to work with Arteta, it's fantastic. I love that, especially coming from Unai Emery, who, well, to be honest, I couldn't stand by the end of it. It was just really tough to get you excited about football, to get you excited about Arsenal and going there, and it's just been a breath of fresh air seeing Mikel Arteta come in. He's transformed the squad. Those last days at Emery were so dark. Honestly, they were. Walking around, I remember being at the training ground before the what was the game where he got sacked after? Was it Frankfurt in the Europa League? We were down there watching the open training session when we had 15 minutes where we were able to watch the players train, and it was the day before Emery got sacked, and you could just see how rotten it was there. Totally lost the players. There was no, you could see they were so down. He was standing over on his own over there. It was just a really depressing 15 minutes where you could see just how bad things had got. And then we compare that to what things are like now, and what Arteta has done is just chalk and cheese. It's so far apart from where they were back there in December, and he deserves huge credit for that. And you can just tell just by being around him, he's enthralling to listen to, he's inspiring to listen to, and that's exactly what he must be like for the players. And he is like for the players. You just have to look at the videos after the FA Cup final of him with the squad on the pitch in the dressing room to see just how much they love him. Zad said, would you still want to see Ozil given a shot in the current team? Personally, I love Mesut. I do wish we went for Ziyech though. My feelings on Ozil are that it's time to go. I really wish he would now, not because he's not a good player, because he is. He's still a very good player, but I just don't, it's come to the end of the journey between Arsenal and Mesut Ozil. It's so obvious that it's just a drain on everyone, this whole saga. The fact we're probably going to have a whole another year as well is just depressing to think about, really. I don't really see how he fits into Arteta's plans now as well. Arteta very much wants to go with either 3-4-3 or a 4-3-3. I don't think Ozil fits into either of those, so I think it's time to move on, and I wish he would, but it's not his fault. He's got this massive contract. He's got it guaranteed for another year. Why would he leave? It's not his fault. It's Arsenal's fault for giving him that contract that they probably shouldn't have done. Well, they definitely shouldn't have done when you're looking at it retrospectively now. But so yeah, that's my opinion on Ozil. I think he's a good player. I've loved watching him at Arsenal. He's been a fantastic player for the club. But I really wish he'd move on now. But unfortunately, I don't think he's gonna. I think it's gonna carry on for another year. This soap opera. Deepak says, do you think the power change at the club will give Arteta more voice in the transfers? I think he will. Arteta's in such a strong position. He's a stronger position already in just a matter of months than Unai Emery ever was at Arsenal. A lot of that comes because he has won a trophy already, which obviously puts him on that high pedestal already. But I just think as well, he's just, because of his communication, because of how much the players love him, he's already in a massive position of power, and he's done that all through hard work and achievement and getting the best out of his squad of players. And the fact that Raul's gone now, and Edu and Mikel are going to work really, really close in tandem on the technical side of things. That yes, he's absolutely, the departure of Raul has put Arteta and Edu in really strong positions they potentially weren't in before. So absolutely, I think I think the power change has given Arteta more of a voice on transfers. And I think what you're seeing in this transfer window as well, Willian coming in, who's a player Arteta absolutely wanted, with Gabriel hopefully coming in, another player that Arteta wants. Houssem Aouar, however you pronounce it, I keep getting it wrong, from Lyon as well, player that Arteta likes. Whether Arsenal sign him, I think we're going to have to, that's something that's going to run. There's an awful lot of interest in him, and I think it's going to be very difficult for Arsenal to get that done just because of the price tag that Lyon are going to want. But he's still a player that Mikel Arteta really, really likes. And you kind of look at the players that Arsenal are really targeting in this window, and they're very specific players for specific positions. And when Arteta was speaking before the end of last season, he very much said he'd already identified what he needed in each role, where he really felt the squad needed strengthening. And you look at that now: a centre back, a dominant central midfielder, sort of ball playing, number 8 almost, not number 10, but number 8 as well. They're very much areas, and a wide man. They're very much areas that Arteta had identified that needed the squad needed to strengthen. So I think we're already seeing that he's in a very significant position of power now, Mikel Arteta. But where else are we? Let's keep going. Likelihood of Arsenal signing Aouar this summer, I can't see it myself, but never say never. I just sort of touched on it in that last one. As I said, he's a player that Arsenal really, really like. Mikel Arteta likes, Edu likes. We've seen the reports that Edu has already been in contact with Juninho and has potentially offered Matteo Guendouzi in a swap deal for him, something that Lyon aren't too keen on. But the fact is that Arsenal really, really like him. He's a player who fits the bill. He's a player they've watched for a long time. But they're not alone. So many clubs like him. So many clubs have watched him for an awful long time. He's not some secret. He's been a very good player for a couple of years now in France. And you just have to look at his performances in the Champions League. Look at Pep Guardiola's comments about him after the game. I think it was Kevin De Bruyne as well was sort of waxing lyrical about him after the game. So it's going to be very difficult for Arsenal. They're trying, but it's going to be very difficult for me. Like you said there, Corey, that you can't see it yourself. I struggled to see it just because of the finances involved, and unless Lyon are willing to accept some sort of swap deal, and Arsenal, according to reports in France, not confirmed by me, but according to reports in France, have offered Matteo Guendouzi as a potential swap. Unless Lyon are going to be keen on that, I just think Arsenal are going to struggle with the money, especially when you look at the money they've already put down on Willian's contract and his signing-on fee, which is a fair chunk. Gabriel as well, which they're committed to pay in should he choose them, which at the time of recording this video hasn't happened yet, but hopefully will. They're still trying for Thomas Partey. It's going to be it's going to cost a significant amount of money if they are to get that one done. I think it's going to be hard for Aouar, especially with the amount of competition they're probably going to face this summer. Lyon admitting yesterday after they lost to Bayern in the semi-final that they're going to have to make a couple of sales this summer. He will potentially or probably be one of them. But in terms of Arsenal getting him, it's going to be a difficult one. But you never know. Wait and see. They managed to get Nicolas Pepe last summer, and none of us were really expecting that. So you never know. It's one to keep an eye on. Jordan asked about departures for Luiz and Socrates. Look, I don't think David Luiz is going to go anywhere. I think he's very much staying put, and I think it's going to be very important, especially if Gabriel signs. because then you're going to have Gabriel and William Sellable, two very, very young centre-backs in that squad. And I think David Luiz's experience and his leadership will be absolutely vital in that. So I don't think he's going to go Socrates. I'm told from people close to Socrates that he still, wants to stay at Arsenal and see out the final year of his contract. And unless something drastic happens, that's what he'll be doing. But we'll have to wait and see. There's plenty of time to go. We've heard Napoli is supposed to be interested. There was a lot of reports coming out earlier in the week that they were very close to signing Socrates. Again, that was something that hadn't had backed up, and in fact was the opposite. He was still determined to stay at Arsenal, and that anything can happen and things can change pretty quickly. But we'll have to wait and see. I think for Socrates, I don't really... If Napoli are really in for him, I don't see why you'd stay at Arsenal, because he's not going to play much football. Napoli are a very, very good club, playing at top league. Why would you not go there if you're not going to play at Arsenal? So we'll have to wait and see what happens with Socrates. And he's always struck me in his comments he's made that, not too long ago, earlier on in the season, he's never been a player to just see out of his contract. I don't see why he'd change that now, especially if a club like Napoli are knocking on his door. Adejimo asks how far with the deal with Partey. I spoke about Partey in yesterday's video, so I'm not going to go over it again. We know nothing's moved on from the last few times I've spoken about Partey. Arsenal have to pay the release clause. That's what Atletico have said. At the moment, they haven't paid the release clause. Thomas Partey's open to a move, but all the things have to come together for that deal to happen. And mainly, it's Arsenal paying that release clause. And as it stands, they haven't done it. So we'll have to wait and see. What else we got? Is a Jolson Fernando rumour straight rubbish? Says Mike. I never had that confirmed as something of real substance for me. It just sounded like a lot of agent talk, and I think there's talk now. I haven't actually seen if it's happened yet that he's going to get a new contract at Sporting. So put two and two together and you work out what that was all about. Asif asks, is it true that Hector Bellerin's been looked at by Juve? I haven't had that backed up. I've seen the reports, but I haven't had it backed up. As far as I'm aware, he's still very, very much part of Arsenal's plans. And when you look at their options at right back, if you get rid of Hector, you've got to sign a new right back. You can't. Cedric Suarez isn't going to be first choice right back next season. You would certainly hope not. Anyway, it's a decent squad player, but he's not going to take you forward. He's not an improvement on Hector. And it doesn't look like Maitland-Niles is going to be seen as a first choice right back by Arteta. So it just seems a bit unnecessary to me if you're going to get rid of Hector then, unless a massive, massive offer arrives. What else we got? Just scrolling through. When do you think Aubameyang's new contract will be announced? Says Harry, we're just waiting. I think I touched on this in yesterday's video, but I'll go through it again quickly. We're just basically waiting for him to get back. He's been on holiday in Italy, had a very nice holiday. The contract, as far as I'm aware, has all been agreed, not yet signed. Videos haven't been taken, photos haven't been taken. Once he's back from holiday, that will all happen, and we'll all be given the chance to celebrate Arsenal's captain signing a big bumper new contract that will keep him here for another 3 years. And you can understand why. I know a lot of fans are impatient. They want to hear the news, but this is a massive thing for Arsenal. They want to celebrate it. They want to put it out there as big as possible, as bold as possible. That Orb is staying. One of the top strikers in the country is staying. You want to celebrate that. You don't want to just put it out quietly. So you're going to wait for him to come back from holiday, and then we're going to hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be hearing the news about Aubameyang very, very soon. Does Arteta plan on playing a back four of Saliba and, for instance, Gabriel? Says George, or would you prefer a more experienced centre-back to start with? I think whatever happens, even if Gabriel does come in, which hopefully is looking likely, and Saliba's obviously there, I still think Arsenal start the season with David Luiz, just because they're two very young centre-backs, never played in England before, never played in the Premier League before, adjusting to a new country. Between them, I think they've only played about 60, 70 senior games. So I don't see how you just pair them together straight away in the opening weekend of the Premier League season. I think David Luiz is still going to be a very, very important player for Arsenal, at least for the first half of the season, while the younger new centre-backs bed in. EB says, what do you predict Arsenal's best 11 will be next year? It's really, really difficult, just because we don't know who's going to sign. So it's really tough for me, as much as I would love to go through it. It's tough because we don't know, is Partey going to sign? Are they going to pull something out of the bag and bag Houssem, or are they, is Gabriel definitely coming in? If it does, you kind of look at that team 4-3-3 maybe, with once they're settled in, Sellable and Gabriel as the centre backs, Tierney and Bellerin at right back. The goalkeeper's so difficult. Is it Emi Martinez or Bert Leno? Seems mad to suggest that given how good Leno was, but Martinez was fabulous when he came in. And I almost prefer Martinez, I have to say, just because of his ability coming out and claiming crosses. He gives you so much confidence. So I'd almost go Martinez, Bellerin, Saliba, Gabriel, Tierney, centre-back pairing of Xhaka and Thomas Partey. Maybe if they can get it, Houssem Aouar ahead of him, and then potentially, I'd say, it's really tough. Auba, Pepe, Laka. Where's Willian fit into that? It's really difficult. It's an interesting one to predict, because you imagine Willian's going to be a starter. So then what happens? Is that going to be Willian starting on the left, Auba moving to central striker, and then Pepe on the right? I mean, so many choices, good choices, but it's all hypothetical, because do we know if Gabriel are going to sign Thomas Partey or Houssem Aouar? We'll have to wait and see. But there's certainly players at Arsenal hoping to get on board. Who are the most sellable assets that are likely to be moved on this window? Well, I think Matteo Guendouzi, we all know Arsenal are very, very keen on getting him out the door, either in a swap deal or as a cash deal. I think Lucas Torreira could potentially go as well. Ainsley Maitland-Niles, if a decent bid comes in for Maitland-Niles, could go. All three of those are decent, valuable assets. You'd be looking at over £20 million for all of them. In excess of that, really, in excess of £30 million. You'd think potentially for Torreira and Guendouzi. So they're the very sellable assets, and then you've got Alexander Lacazette and what Arsenal are going to do with him. Will they cash in on him if they can, if a decent bid's come in? Because if not, you're going to have to give him a new contract, really. So I think they're the four where you look at it and think Arsenal could get a decent amount of money if decent bids come in. I'm not saying they're definitely going to sell them, but those are the players that you look at and potentially think it could be a way of generating decent funds. How likely is a scenario of seeing Guendouzi and Torreira make away for Partey and Diawara? Asks the Finsbury Fiend. I don't think Diawara's coming in. As far as I'm aware, that's not one. I saw the Torreira-Diawara swap deals, but got told it was just that's something that's not really happening. I think Diawara is someone that Arsenal have looked at. He's on their backup options if they can't get hold of someone like Thomas Partey, but I think that's one for second, third, fourth, fifth on the list. I'm not sure where, but in terms of the swap deal with Torreira and Diawara, I don't think that's something that's going to happen. What would represent success for Arteta next season? Ask Simon. Mark, top four, absolutely 100%. Arsenal getting the Champions League next season, that is a success. I know Arsene Wenger used to get absolutely hammered for saying that, but where Arsenal are now and for how important it would be for the budget and everything, 100%. If they get top four next season, that would be a massive success. Leopold says, what's hold up with Gabriel's transfer to Arsenal? I don't really think there is a hold up, Leopold. I think it's just social media gets everyone so massively het up and focused on a transfer has to happen now. It was only 2 weeks ago. No one even thought that Gabriel was coming to Arsenal, and now we're at a stage where it's virtually, it's right there about to happen. So I mean, that's pretty quick. Two weeks to get a transfer done is very quick. Believe me. I think it's just social media makes everyone go into meltdown over these transfers and thinks that it's announce it now. You just got to be patient. It's tough to be. You're talking about multi-million-pound deals. They don't happen overnight. It takes time, and this one, is just taking a little bit of time. You got to be patient with it. It's I don't think it's not really a hold up. Right, still scrolling through. Farouk says, Charles, what about Ceballos? Is a permanent transfer possible? And not for me, no. I don't think Arsenal will be signing Ceballos permanently. I'm not sure they're going to sign him on loan at the moment. Arsenal and Real Madrid are pretty way off in terms of whether that will be happening. And Real financially in just as much trouble as an awful lot of clubs, despite their stature. And Not expected to do too much business in the transfer market, so Ceballos suddenly could become an option for Zidane, even though Zidane's never really rated him or used him before. He's going to have a look at him in pre-season, and we'll see what happens. So, but in terms of permanent, I wouldn't be expecting Arsenal to sign Ceballos on a permanent. If he's going to come back, it'll be on another loan. One sec, thirsty work. Oscar says, Balaka, Pepe, Willian. Do we see them all in the starting 11 with Willian at 10? It's an interesting one. Obviously, Willian done his best work at Chelsea out wide, potentially on the right, but Arsenal got Nicolas Pepe there. I think Pepe's form over the second half of last season, was very, very encouraging. You wouldn't think Arsenal were going to block the pathway for Nicolas Pepe, considering the investment they put in him. So where does Willian fit in? Do you play him on the left and have Auber on the right, or do you play him at 10 and in the 10, or the 8 almost in the 4-3-3, and then you can have Auber on the left and Laka up front? There's a lot of talk that Arsenal are looking at using Willian in a more central role, so we'll have to wait and see on that. I mean, my personal opinion on it is that I'm not sure he absolutely suited to that position. As I said, his best work at Chelsea was coming from out wide. Is he gonna, at his age, is it best to sort of move him into a role that, although he can operate in, it's not his best role? I'm not so sure. So, but it's going to be so much football, as you say here, Oscar. Do we expect rotation with more? I mean, there's going to be so much rotation. Arsenal got the Europa League, remember? So many games in that. You're just going to have to rotate. And this season, you look at the fixture list that came out today, it's absolutely mad. Arsenal are playing week in, week out, midweek, weekend, midweek, weekend, all the way up to Christmas. It's just non-stop. So Mikel Arteta and the players have barely had any rest. They've only had the cup final was under a month ago. So there's going to be an awful lot of rotation there. It's going to have to keep players sharp, keep players fit, protect them from injury. So it's going to be rotation. So I think that's why you're looking at, it's going to be different teams week in, week out. So they're all going to play in those roles, various ones. Dazza says, how many goals and assists do you think Nico Pepe will get in the league? I can't predict it, but I think Pepe, as I said, his form last season and the second half season was encouraging. He didn't have the best of first seasons in England, but when you look at his numbers, again, very, very encouraging for someone who's just settling in. Young lad, very raw, settling into a new country, doesn't speak the language. You look at the amount of goals he scored and assists. I think was it 9 goals and 11 assists, something like that. You're sort of looking at 20 goal contributions in his first season, which, although people might look at and say for a £72 million player that's not enough, it's still a decent outlook. I think you take the price tag out of it, I think it's still a decent output from a player in their first season in a new country. So I'd hope he gets more than that now, because he's going to be more settled, he knows the place more. So you'd want more than that. You'd want goals in the double figures, and you'd again want assists now well into the double figures. So big things expected of Pepe this season. Hopefully he's going to live up to that, live up to the billing. Is it true that Messi will sign for Arsenal in this transfer window? Says 14. I know 4, you're joking there, 14. Unfortunately, no, he won't. Deron Arsenal news has calmed down about Coutinho. Is Arsenal still interested? I covered that in yesterday's video, Deron, so I'm not going to really go over it. You can go back and watch that yesterday to see the answer. But as far as I'm aware, people at Arsenal are very, very strong on the fact that Coutinho will not be signing this summer. Just scrolling through, as I said before, lots of questions, all very similar, so I don't want to go over all the same things. This is an interesting one. Will it be possible to keep both Leno and Martinez? Look, Arsenal would want to keep both Leno and Martinez, because, as I said, there's going to be an awful lot of games this season. You look at the number that both players played last season, there's an awful lot of games, but it's going to be tough, especially with Martinez. Martinez was desperate to get his opportunity to prove he can be a number one, and he did that, absolutely did that. He was magnificent. Will he really want to go back to sitting on the bench, certainly in the Premier League, every single week? I can't see it. I think it's going to be a struggle. So Arsenal are going to have to really do a lot of work when the 2 goalkeepers come in and almost make a big decision. I'd as mad as it sounds, I'd be tempted to sell Bernd Leno. I really would. I think Martinez is that good that I'd be tempted to cash in on Bernd Leno and keep Martinez. I think Leno's fantastic. He's been great. He was voted second in player of the season, deservedly so. But you look at his strengths, his shot stopping undoubtedly, but Martinez is equally as good at shot stopping, or he certainly was from what we saw in that run. when he came in. But when you look at all the other attributes in the game, his passing, his commander, his area, coming for crosses, claiming balls in aerial crosses, it's better than Bernd Leno. You feel so much more confident with Martinez coming for a cross than you do with Leno. So it's a massive decision for Mikel Arteta. Obviously, Leno's got the longevity that Martinez hasn't. You haven't seen Martinez do it over a course of a whole season yet. It was just a short little spell towards the end of the season. Was he riding the crest of a wave? You don't know how will his reaction be when he first makes a real clanger. Will he lose the confidence that we've seen from him so far? I doubt it, and I know from his loan spell at Reading the season before last, and he was fantastic there as well, just like he was at Arsenal. They love him. They think he was one of the best keepers they've ever had. He single-handedly almost kept him in the league, the Championship that season. So I think it's going to be tough to keep both of them. I have to admit, just because they're so good. But right now, if you ask me who Arsenal should sell, if they had to sell one of them, I'd say Bernd Leno. Right, I think I'm going to call time on this one now. What are we up to? We're up to nearly 26 minutes. I think I'm going to call time on this one now. Looking through, they're all pretty similar. The questions I haven't answered yet, they're all ones that I've gone over really before. All about Lacazette, Aubameyang, Ceballos, Partey, Aouar, Gabriel. So there's no point me replicating them all. So thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate it. I'll try and do another one of these Q&As fairly soon as well, because I know you're all desperate for as much information as you get with the transfer window opening. But don't forget, we've got football starting up already. Arsenal starting up already next Saturday in the Community Shield at Wembley. So next week I have plenty in build up to that. We'll have Mikel Arteta back on press conference duties ahead of that game, and obviously plenty of news in the transfer market, with hopefully the conclusion of the deal for Gabriel not too far away. So please do head over to my social media accounts. On Twitter I'm at Charles_Watts. You can find me on Facebook as well, or head over to goal.com and go search for all your Arsenal news there, and I'll try and keep you as updated as I possibly can. So thank you for watching, everyone. Please do stay safe.